Millions of people remember something that never happened. Not one person, not 100. Millions at the same time with the exact same mistake. This has a name, the Mandela effect. And it's not some conspiracy theory about parallel universes, even though that's how it started online. It's something much more real and much more unsettling. The name comes from one specific case. A huge number of people were absolutely certain a famous political leader had died in prison back in the 80s, with a public funeral, with news coverage. That never happened. That leader walked out of prison, lived on for years, and eventually even led his own country. People weren't lying. Nobody was making this up on purpose. They genuinely remembered with total clarity something that never occurred. And this isn't an isolated case. There are much more common examples, ones you've probably shared yourself without even realizing it. Think of a famous bear family from a series of children's books. A huge number of people swear the family name was spelled one specific way. The real spelling is different, off by just one letter. Think of an iconic video game character with the tip of its tail supposedly a certain color. Plenty of people remember a detail that never actually existed in the original design. Think of a well-known board game logo, featuring a character wearing a monocle. That monocle in the real official version never existed. It was never part of the actual design. The strange part isn't that people get details wrong. Everyone misremembers small things. The strange part is that they get it wrong in exactly the same way, without knowing each other, without ever talking beforehand. That's the real key to this whole phenomenon. It's not that your memory fails randomly, like a dice roll landing differently every time. It fails following a shared pattern, almost as if everyone were using the exact same mental shortcut. And that shortcut has a pretty solid explanation, nothing magical about it. Your brain doesn't store memories like perfect photographs, filed away one by one. It stores something closer to a summary, built out of whatever feels most likely, most logical, most expected. If a last name with a double letter sounds a little odd, your brain quietly simplifies it without you noticing into a more common, easier to pronounce version. Thousands of people make that exact same simplification independently because they share the same kind of brain, trained on the same language, the same spelling rules. Something similar happens with logos and characters, but tied to visual expectations instead. If a character just seems like it should have a monocle based on its style or its era, your brain fills that gap in with that detail, even if it was never actually there. It's the same mechanism as the visual blind spot, just applied to an entire memory of something you saw years ago, instead of a split second right in front of your eyes. There's another factor that makes all of this worse, and it's fairly recent: digital repetition. When a lot of people share the exact same wrong memory online, that mistake reinforces itself. You see someone else remembering the same thing you do with the same confidence, and that validates your own false memory, even though you're both equally wrong. It's a kind of echo, one individual false memory multiplied by thousands of people repeating it back to each other, until it starts to feel like a solid, proven, unquestionable fact. Here's something important worth clearing up. The Mandela effect doesn't mean alternate timelines exist, or that parallel universes accidentally crossed over, the way it's often joked about online. It means something simpler, and in a way more fascinating. Human memory isn't purely individual. It shares patterns, biases, shortcuts, with everyone else who grew up in similar contexts. When thousands of different brains make the exact same memory mistake, that's not a coincidence. It's evidence that we all build memories using the same imperfect tools, following the same hidden rules underneath. So next time you argue with someone over a small detail, a logo, a line, a last name, and you're both completely convinced you're right, it's worth pausing for a second. Maybe neither of you is lying. Maybe both brains, through completely different paths, landed on the exact same mistake because that's simply how human memory quietly chooses to fill in the gaps that time leaves behind. See you in the next video.